And football is back, everyone. Man, I remember how enthusiastic I was at the beginning of the football season. And it was kind of a letdown for a bit, but this week, this week was such a big comeback. Welcome back, everyone. It is the Unofficial Commentators podcast. As usual, we have our host, who I will not mention. I'll leave that to my co-host. and man, Packy, take it away.
All right, man. You got the Unofficial Commentators podcast, hosted as always by JJ98, the man with the beard. Packy, the man with the beard. You get it. As always, this episode is dropping every Thursday morning as we try to keep you guys on schedule. So remember, you can always subscribe to our channel on YouTube, Unofficial Commentators. You can see the video version. We're going to leave the link on the podcast version. And the podcast is on Podomatic.com. You can get the link to the podcast on our YouTube channel. So we're very excited about today's episode. I'm very happy that my brother JJ98 and myself, Packy, are back on the mics. I know last week JJ had to do it alone because daylight savings times. I'm a man with a very tough working schedule, so nature calls. But Jay, tell me,
brother.
Come on, man. You're an hour earlier. I got a lot of stuff to do. It was a tough week for me, but we're back, man. We're back and we're strong. We're ready.
All right, so we're in the thick of things, man. Midway through November. I'm not going to mention elections after that, and we're just going to talk about some of the fun things that happened in November. Last week, we dropped a UFC podcast, which was seen by a lot of people. It actually attracted a lot of different crowds. I get to check who's viewing it on YouTube, and I saw some faces I hadn't seen before. Got some comments, got some emails. People like that, so we're going to keep it varied. I mean, it's not just a fantasy football podcast. Also, we're in November. A lot of people are celebrating No Shave November. However, for Packy and myself, it's No Shave November every ember.
Yeah, that's right. The luscious beards.
And the Giants won. It's got my tribute there, and it's also wearing camouflage as a tribute to the troops, man, because it's important. People fight for our freedom. So enough of the this and that. I know Packy's really excited to talk about what happened this weekend. Packy, just kind of revisit what happened this weekend in New York, particularly talking about the UFC 205.
Touche on the veterans comment, by the way, man. That's a great shout out. I'm going to second you on that one. I don't have anything that can honor our veterans. My uncle, who was the one that brought me into football as a young child and brought me into Raider Nation by the time my teeth were growing out, he's a veteran from the Navy, so I will give a shout out to my Uncle Joey. He lives in New York, so I definitely have to shout out to the veterans. I should have been wearing my Raider hat. I have a Raider hat with some Navy buttons on it that he gave me. I should have been wearing that today, but I feel the hats are kind of messing up my lighting. But going straight to topic on UFC 205, man, I remember we talked on last week's podcast what had to happen for UFC 205 to be successful. And I think everything that had to happen, happened. We had a lot of good finishes. We had a lot of good submissions. We had a lot of great performances. And the fights that actually went to decisions were actually very, very good fights, including the one for Joanna Jędrzejczyk and Carolina Kowicz, if that's how you say it. That was an excellent fight. It started out kind of slow, but this girl, Carolina, man, she just kept marching forward. She would not go down. I love that fight. And, of course, the Stephen Thompson and Woodley fight was also an extremely exciting fight. Yeah, Tyron Woodley. It started off slow as well, but it picked up at the end and became a war. I think the decision on that fight was complete trash. I mean, how are they calling this a tie, man? That was absurd. I would be Tyron Woodley, man. I would be so upset about that decision.
Funny, too. That fight in particular, like I was watching it without the sound, and I see Bruce Buffer running out of the the octagon, and I'm thinking, what the hell's happening here? Then I come by and I read that it's a majority draw. I said, how the hell do you draw when you got 3 judges in 5 rounds? Like, it's designed for you not to have a draw. But it's not the first time that I've seen a draw in UFC, so it just kind of broke that way for him.
Yeah, 3 judges, all with 47-47. I think one of them was 48-48. So very odd. Obviously, let's make sure that our listeners understand this is not the UFC. This is the New York Athletics Commissions. They're the ones that put the judges. Whatever state they're celebrating the event in, they put the judges. It's completely independent to UFC, and they decided it was a tie. Just to be clear, I believe Tyron Woodley won this fight, obviously, because I didn't specify who should have won. I just said it was absurd. It was a tie. Woodley dominated this fight completely. And kudos to Wonderboy Thompson for hanging on when he was almost knocked out and choked out. I mean, that guy is a warrior. I had not seen him in a war. He had been pretty much cruising through all his fights with great karate, but this time he survived, man. So that's good.
And he wasn't just surviving and running away, man. He was really fighting. He brought the fight to Woodley. I mean, those rounds wouldn't have gone his way if he was just running away from him all the time. He got hit really hard. His face was bleeding for most of the fight, and he kept bringing it.
Yeah, no doubt. And obviously, the main event of UFC 205, which was Conor McGregor versus Eddie Alvarez, I didn't want to jump into that right away because I believe it's fair we talk about everything else. Oh, and the knockout by Joel Romero on Chris Weidman was insane. I mean, blood.
Ouch, man.
Blood.
I still feel that.
People like blood. That's something that we didn't mention in the podcast. What did UFC needed to be successful? Blood. I know it sounds gruesome, but we watch UFC to see the blood, man. And he cracked his head open with a flying knee. That was awesome. But going straight to the main event, Conor McGregor showed his dominance over Eddie Alvarez. I felt kind of bad for Eddie Alvarez. I was expecting more of a closer fight, but Eddie Alvarez looked like a deer with a deer in the headlights as soon as he got hit with the first left. I'm a huge Conor McGregor fan. I mean, we pretty much expressed it last week.
I'm not.
Yeah, I know you're not. I was very excited for Conor McGregor, but it was just unfair the way he manhandled Eddie Alvarez.
Eddie Alvarez, yeah, I'll agree with some of the comments you guys made. He didn't look like he belonged there. He just looked really, really. It's like he got hit and he just threw the game plan out the window. I don't know what he was hoping to do there. I understand, he would have had an advantage had he closed the distance, wrestled, and he started out pretty good, kicking that lead leg, and then he got tapped once, and he was like, yes, F it. Whatever.
Yeah, it's like he tried to close the distance. Yeah, it's like he tried to close the distance, but every time he did, McGregor would just, bring out that left jab. And what surprised me the most about this fight was Conor McGregor's size. I mean, was it me or did he just look huge next to Eddie Alvarez? I mean, we already knew he had the reach, but he looked like a 170-pounder fighting with a 155. If McGregor, by any chance, is still physically able to make a cut down to 145, I do not even want to imagine what's going to happen to Aldo or Frankie Edgar, who are the only, valid candidates at 145, seeing the size difference that he'll probably show.
It's more of that bullying, man. This is kind of the reason why I don't like him. Yeah, he talks a lot. Some of the stuff he says is funny. I actually thought that he wasn't very creative this time around, but that's neither here nor there. Now, the thing about it is it's all right. It's an advantage that not everyone can take advantage of. Pardon the repetition of words, no pun intended. But he takes advantage of the fact that he can drop to that size and still be taller and have longer arms and longer legs and footwork than everyone. And the fact that he's a southpaw, which not everyone is. These are all things that you would have to worry about normally, but then to worry about it with a guy who overnight puts on 20 pounds and he's that much heavier than you, it's almost unfair.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, I thought that, we've discussed that I rarely get like really, really excited over sports. It felt kind of flat for me. I love the Wonder Boy fight because, first off, I was rooting for Wonder Boy, and the fact that he was in danger and kind of came back and he fought from behind the whole time, respect, excitement, and the fact that he could have ended it with any one of those strikes, I'm like, this is something to be excited about. But the main event felt kind of one-sided to me. It's like, okay, punch here. And then what happened to the champ, man? There was like no head movement, no changing levels, nothing. McGregor, like to end the fight, McGregor hit him with 4 straight strikes, all to the head and face. Like, what are you doing? You're just standing around getting punched. He fell to the floor, eyes wide open, hands up in the air, not even trying to defend himself. Uh, it was weak, man.
I think the first couple of left hands that knocked him down didn't knock him out, but they stunned him because he looked completely lost. But there was a lot of conversation about the weight dropping and stuff like that. I personally don't have an issue with that because fighters like Gastelum, Alves, who both fought in this, or Gastelum was supposed to fight in this event, Johnny Hendricks and so on, prove that it's not that easy to drop weight. So if you, as a fighter, have the discipline and are able to drop weight, to make weight, well, kudos to you, man. To me, that's part of being a fighter. That's why I personally don't have anything against anybody that can do that. I'll tell you, I used to fight. I used to be a Taekwondo fighter for the Dominican Republic national selection team back when in my 19s and 20s. And making weight, bro, is not easy. Like, they would have to wrap us up in plastic bags and put us in a sauna. And we would have to train in the sauna so we can lose all that water weight. It's not easy. Like, you would see people before the weigh-ins jogging around the freaking stadium or the location, wrapped in jackets and in plastic bags with coats in Dominican Republic, which is like 100 degrees, just to make weight. So it's not easy. And if you can do it, good for you, man. Good for you.
If you can do it, man, and you can still be alive after doing it, props.
It's not easy.
Well, let's not bury the lead. You know, it's like you said earlier, everything that needed to happen to make this a success happen. You know, a lot of people flied in from Ireland to watch the fight. I experienced that firsthand. I was actually in Midtown the night before, and I saw a lot of people, you know, with their Irish flags, bringing in beers to the Holiday Inn, just pre-gaming from the night before to celebrate Conor McGregor's win. But it almost felt scripted, man. Like, it was supposed to happen. Like, I didn't see the champion put up much of a fight. And it was just like, you know, the fact that there were so many title fights and 2 of them went to 5 rounds, it was like, you know, let's get this over with. I am far from saying that he took a dive or he got paid to lose, but I expected a much better fight than that. Anyway, the good news is we got that first New York City UFC under our belts.
Yes.
So that can only mean that more of them will still be the ones to come, but none of as important as the first one. So it was what it was. Some people loved it. Some people were just kind of on the fence, and you know, I don't know if anyone who hated it, but you know, it covered a lot of his bases. And you didn't even mention Miesha Tate, man. She went from being on top of the world. She headlined UFC 200, which was a flop if you ask me, but she was the headliner. She was the main event, top of the world, and now she, you know, one fight later, she's talking about retirement. It's kind of sad to see that, man, but you know, whatever. Will she be missed? There's so much new.
She's a beautiful girl. She's been in a lot of wars. It's fine. She can retire.
Yeah. You think it sticks, though? Because a lot of people say they retire and then they come back.
Depends how much money she's going to make from here on out. But to not tire out the UFC subject, because, you know, we got a lot to cover today, I give UFC a 10 out of 10. Not that we're giving it a report card or anything like that. Cousin Juan, shout out.
Wow.
But for me, it was a 10 out of 10. But just to pretty much close the UFC subject, Conor McGregor needs to have a fight. The next fight has to be a title defense, which a lot of people criticize him for not having one. Which one do you think it'll be? Will it be a title defense at 155 versus probably Khabib, or a title defense at 145 versus probably Aldo, or do you have anybody else that you think would make that fight?
150 Khabib and Ferguson. I saw Khabib in the prelims and he dominated. I would love to see him defend at 155, but I think that if he intends on keeping the 145 belt, then he has to defend it.
Yeah.
Now, all the talk leading up to UFC 205 was that he was simply going to have to give one of the 2 titles up, and it was looking like it was going to be the 145, so I don't even know in what direction they're going. I mean, it seems like Dana bends over backwards to please Conor McGregor at every turn, so
I think what Conor told...
whatever. I don't even know what to tell you.
I think what's going to happen is he's going to keep the belts, because if Dana takes the 145 belt, I'm 100% sure that he's going to tell Dana, all right, I'm dropping to 145, give me a title fight with Aldo. And he'll just get it right back. and he's going to keep moving back and forth. So they just might as well give him the title fight. I think it should be versus Aldo. Aldo's been taking a hiatus for long enough, waiting for Conor McGregor. He deserves a fight against Conor. He deserves a rematch. 13 seconds is not enough to prove if he was a legit champion or not versus Conor. So.
By the way, I don't know what hiatus you're talking about. He fought at 200 4 months ago.
Yeah, but
he might have to fight again before that.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
It was for the interim title.
Yeah, that's.
So let's give people that have been asking me, people that follow the podcast whenever I share it, give them a little bit about basketball, man. In particular, what do you think about the Knicks? Right now, they're 4-6. They got.
I'm so happy you asked me. Oh my God! Just so people know, I mean, I don't want to say I'm a Knicks fan, but I just said it by saying that. But I cannot wait. I've always hated on James Dolan for butting in too much. But I think this is about the time that James Dolan needs to butt in and get rid of Phil Jackson. I'm making it public here. Phil Jackson is starting to talk too much with the posse statement. Phil Jackson is not making the right moves. And now he doesn't want to coach. He doesn't want to coach. And now he's getting in Jeff Hornacek's business by telling him he's not running the triangle enough. The chemistry is not there. The Knicks look horrible. There's absolutely no excuse for them not to be at least a 500 team. So for me, it's about time to just scratch it all, get rid of everybody, even Melo, which is one of my favorite players of all time. Get rid of everybody except Porzingis and start from scratch. Get rid of the coach, get rid of the GM, get rid of Melo, get rid of Rose, get rid of everybody, start from scratch. You got to do this all over again, just like Boston is doing. That's my opinion on the Knicks.
Man, Becky brought that ether.
That's right.
This first 10 games, it was kind of a tough schedule. They're currently at 4-6. They have Detroit today. Andre Drummond, the best player on the Pistons, is going to be playing tonight after missing a game with an ankle injury. So, not wishing for any injury, but maybe he's limited and hobbled enough so where the Knicks can take advantage. And right now it's all about baby steps, man. Like you said, it is a new coach. I don't understand what the hell they're doing there with Kurt Rambis running the defense. You forgot to mention that in your rant.
Oh my God! Thank you.
There really is like no real identity in terms of the team. Jeff Hornacek was never a triangle coach. He was kind of an up-tempo guy, and they're not running up-tempo. There's too much isolation. I mean, I don't want to absolutely bury the Knicks. I just want to celebrate, the baby steps that we're taking to get there. So win tonight, make it back to 500, and consider your season 0-0 and just kind of take it from there. As the professionals say, even though it's kind of cliche, take it one game at a time. But yeah, I agree with you, man. Something has to be done about Phil.
I mean, I understand the chemistry part. It's a brand new team. There's only two starters from last year, which are Melo and Porzingis. But it's like you said, there's no identity. The ball is dead. The ball is not moving. And then you bring on Brandon Jennings. He's another one that he's not even rotating the ball. These guys are all just trying to shine on their own. And to me, it's not even like they're just being selfish. It's just that they don't have anything to do. It's like they're not being told, where to go with the ball. So it's like, screw it, I'll do it myself. So to me, and another thing, how can I mean, I'm not even a basketball coach. I've never been a basketball coach. I'm nothing more than a mere observer. How can me and most of the fan base notice that Porzingis should be the main shot taker in the Knicks? The offense should rotate against Porzingis. It's unacceptable for Porzingis to go into a game with only 4 field goals. That's preposterous. And you know who I'm quoting with that word. I mean, it's insane. He is the youngest and the best offensive tool you have, even over Melo, because I love Melo. I'll mention it again, but it's clear that Melo has lost a step. Melo made his money on that quick jab step, boom, boom, and getting out the break real quick, getting to the rim. He's not as explosive as he was before. So you got to run through Porzingis, keep developing Porzingis, make him the main player on that team, and see if it improves. And don't even get me started on the defense. You mentioned Kurt Rambis, but the defense in general is a complete sham. It's horrible.
You're definitely not getting your money's worth with Joakim Noah. He's not.
Oh my God.
So far, he hasn't bounced back to what people expected him to be. As we record this, the Knicks are currently 11 points up on Detroit. The Cavaliers are losing by 11 points in the fourth against the Pacers. The Pacers we expected to be kind of a big deal. The Warriors are in a tight one against the Raptors. Thunder and Rockets are also in a tight one. And how about this for a surprise? The Clippers this year, 10-1. See that happen?
Of course not, but they are a veteran team. They are healthy, which they haven't had much health throughout the years. It was either Blake Griffin or Chris Paul missing game. They look healthy right now. Nobody expected them to start 10-1, but I'm not surprised they're doing well because they are a good team and they are well coached. What I want to see them is keep this up in February, in March, in the stretch, because that's when they start falling. I want to see them keep it up in the playoffs because this team, year in, year out, makes the playoffs. They look good in the regular season. Come playoff time, they got taken out right away.
Well, they're notoriously good in January, but the problem, I think, historically for the Clippers, at least for this core group of Clippers, has been the fact that they don't have a bench. So you can start off like that because your talent will carry you, but when that talent starts to get weary and then they start feeling the impacts of, jumping all that much, landing that hard, and constantly getting bumps over and over and over, like every time you try to dunk and you get hacked, it starts to wear on you. So those are the bodies that they're bringing into the playoffs, and then they have no one to give them a breather.
And kudos to Blake Griffin, man. Blake Griffin has evolved as a basketball player. His ball handling has improved. His shot taking has improved. And the way he's getting to the rim is also a lot nicer. Not only does it look tougher and does it look more efficient, but it also has a little bit more finesse, is that how you say it, to his game? It looks finesse. A little bit... Yeah, finesse. It looks nicer. His game looks a lot nicer. Blake Griffin is a main reason why the Clippers are doing so well. He's looking really good.
I've always been a fan of Blake Griffin, and I know he can do it all, but he was so much more exciting when he was just looking at everyone.
He was like he was a a racially mixed version of Sean Kemp before. Now we're seeing a little bit more evolution on his offensive game. Yeah, because he was a dunker. Sean Kemp. Yeah.
You know why I'm
but his game has evolved. He has different ways to make scoring now. It's not just dunking and alley-oops. So that's good.
True. All right, my friend, let's move on to our bread and butter. Let's talk about some fantasy football. This week's focus, we're talking about Week 11 in the League of Haters Fantasy Football League. We're going to be covering our awards as we usually do. This week's highest scorer scored 163.4 points. This was the Real City Butterflies, a team that was auto-drafted by Ivan, but they did a heck of a job with the auto-drafting, in particular taking Ezekiel, number 4, I think, overall for the league. And
yeah, he auto-drafted.
Providing dividends. He might be Ezekiel. I know. But Zeke might end up being the MVP of the league. Who knows?
Yeah, no doubt.
The lowest score, man, where Amari 2600 shortcomings were, but 59.8 points is a weak showing. What the hell happened to Amari 2600? Amari 2600, which, by the way, is currently 6-4 on the top of his division. Only 2 divisions in our league, by the way. Not like a mother league I play where they have like 7 divisions. It's crazy. Everyone's in the lead. Mm-hmm. The blowout of the week came in Ivan's matchup, 163 points to a not bad 107 points, which, 107 could have won a couple of weeks, but it was not to be this week. He was outscored by 56.3 fantasy points. The narrowest win actually involved you, Packy. The narrowest win was 107.2 points to 103.9 points. You only won by 3.3 fantasy points. That had to be a heartbreaker. Now, the Lucky Award, FIBA only scored 86.3 points. I mean, these are Donnie numbers. And who do you happen to beat? Donnie. 83.6 points is pathetic. That's like only playing 4 skill players. Like, what the hell happened there? In terms of the top fantasy performer, That is going to go to rushing. He had 114 yards. He had a few more with receptions. He had 3 total touchdowns, 2 rushing, 1 receiving, and that netted him 39.9 fantasy points.
Yeah, I think we deserve some credit for calling out Amari 2600. You know, a lot of these guys judge us because our records aren't that good in this league, but we called out that Amari 2600 was a ticking time bomb. They've been winning with low scores, and now they're not winning so much with low scores. And look at that, 59 points. That's embarrassing, man.
Did you even start a team? Like, what the hell is that?
It's
that's like a quarterback and a good kicker.
Oh, Jesus Christ, it's crazy.
All right, so in our head-to-head picks update, where we last left everyone, I had 19 correct picks, and Packy had 21. So currently he's in the lead. We're playing for a dinner at a place yet to be determined, which is going to happen here in New York when Packy comes to visit. And this week we both pick 4 teams correctly. So being that you were already up by 2, that brings my total from 19 to 23. It brings your total from 21 to 24. You still lead by 2. However, I've been holding on to this one since last week when I noticed. However,
yeah.
To make matters more interesting, we failed, or we kind of skipped over the fact that Cousin Juan had a stat correction, and I had not picked him that week.
Oh.
So because I didn't pick him, and I picked Dago instead, the stat correction, which happened after we recorded, gave me an extra victory. So I'm not in the lead yet, but I'm also not 2 away. With the stat correction, I'm currently at 24. And you are at 25. So
yeah,
you zigged when you should have zagged, and boom, here I am. I'm in striking distance.
Nicely done, man. I'm hoping to get a lot of good picks. The only reason I only got 4 is because I went against myself, and I actually won. Look at that, with Jay Cutler as my starting quarterback, which I started with a lot of bye weeks, and I just didn't trust Blake Bortles. I've had a lot of quarterback problems. I'm like the St. Louis Rams of.
I wouldn't start Blake Bortles either.
I'm the St. Louis Rams of fantasy football right now.
Man, oh man, a little bit of a run there. The Pistons got a little closer to the Knicks, 81-74 right now.
By the way, before we get into everything, now that I mentioned Jared Goff, what do you think? How do you think he'll do on Sunday? What do you think? Because Jared Goff is going to get the start. The first quarterback taken in the draft is the last quarterback from the draft that's going to start a game. Look at that.
Even Cody Kessler started ahead of him.
It's amazing.
What do I think about Jared Goff? I think he'll be lucky to make it out this game. Weekly we discuss fantasy, and there isn't much fantasy value to be had in the Los Angeles Rams. I mean, Todd Gurley has been flat, where last year he was an absolute beast. And, Kenny Britt is a pleasant surprise, but outside of that, like, what else are you looking forward to in fantasy? Even in our league where we play IDP, I mean, you could probably follow some of the linebackers and pass rushers, but I don't watch much. That being said, I did watch a few episodes of Hard Knocks. I was actually looking for something to put me to sleep, and that did the job. And Jared Goff, man, just in practice, he was looking terrible. He didn't understand the playbook. He couldn't call plays. Like there was a thought that was kind of put out there that, if we trot this kid out there, we're constantly going to get delay a game because it takes him more than the 45 allowed seconds to call a play. He can't figure out who has to go where. He doesn't know the names of the plays. He doesn't get the playbook. He doesn't understand the audibles. How much better did he get in, 10 weeks? Lord only knows. And on top of that, I was also reading up on why Todd Gurley hasn't been a beast. And it really isn't his fault because, he didn't have like a Trent Richardson kind of drop where his talent is no longer there. He's still there. He still sees the defense. He still gets a lot of yards after the first impact. Like after he gets hit, he still gets yards. The problem is he's getting hit way too soon, way too often. The offensive line falls apart. By the time he gets a handoff, he has 3 defenders in his face. If they toss it to him, he has 2 defenders in his face. He has to run laterally way too much, so he's not really making a lot of forward progress, and he's getting hit. Like, you don't run the same when you're fresh bursting through a hole as when you get hit and then still have to get a couple of yards, to salvage that play. And not only that, I've also heard the theory that, they're playing Todd Gurley because he's the only thing that kind of attracts attention to, I wouldn't call it an expansion team, but a relocated team that needs to bring fans to the stadium. So They're trotting out a star, someone whose jersey they're going to sell. But honestly, they're just hoping that on every play, my man, just go out there, do your thing, don't get hurt. Remember, this is a dude that's coming off ACL surgery, even though he was a beast in, I believe it was Georgia. I don't watch a lot of college football.
Yeah, Georgia.
He was a beast in Georgia until he got hurt. Had to postpone his NFL start because of an ACL. So they're taking it easy on him. They're trying to use his marketing, his face, kind of in a way that they use Steven Jackson back in the day when he was the only mentionable piece in the Rams offense. And I'm all over the place. I'm kind of overanalyzing the Rams, but bottom line, it's not a good look. I wouldn't pick Jared Goff in fantasy, and I wouldn't expect anyone else to pick him in fantasy, even given the bye weeks that we have this week.
Yeah, the reason I asked you is because I had an extra spot on my roster. I went ahead and picked him up in free agency after waivers, just in case he pulls a Carson Wentz. You never know. I'm not losing anything. I think the only thing he needs to succeed in this Rams team is work the middle of the field. Linebackers don't even cover anymore because they're all looking at Todd Gurley, and they just got to stop the run, and you stop the Rams' offense. It'd be great if they had a star or a stud tight end, which I hope they get next year, whether it's from draft or free agent. They need one for their for their young quarterback, and they need one so they can.
Their tight end isn't a star or a stud, but he's dependable. I mean,
they need him.
Kendricks.
No, they need a real tight end, a tight end that will attract a linebacker's attention or a strong safety, so they don't just look at Todd Gurley. They got to find a way to work the middle of the field. Case Keenum was horrible throwing passes up the middle. He was extremely inaccurate. He was and he never took advantage of the play action that they can produce over there in St. Louis. So hopefully he can do that. It's not that. Well, for me it's hard, but for an NFL quarterback, it shouldn't be that hard of a job, especially if you're a first overall pick. I hope he does well. I don't have high expectations on him anyways, but I hope he does well.
I'm not very optimistic for Kenny Britt, but Tavon Austin might be someone you want to watch. I mean, he's the guy there that's there not for those not for the trick plays. I think they call those gadget plays, like
get him in space,
make him run. Right. So. If he's currently in the waiver pool, I would take a look at Tavon Austin, and if you don't have to start him, you can just kind of give up a piece and keep him there. He's worth the stash. Mm-hmm. All right, so my man, let's move on to some of the recaps of what happened last week. So the first matchup we're going to discuss actually is going to involve you again. We're going to talk about your game against Double Check McCheese, whatever he was called last week, against Witten is Coming, which, when I say that out loud, sounds so dirty. Witten is Coming.
Yeah, I dropped Carson Wentz. I changed that name last week, and I was so excited. It's a pun to Game of Thrones, like Winter is coming, Witten is coming. And I'm looking over my team today, and I'm like, Witten is coming? That doesn't sound right.
Ew.
Yeah, I'm surprised nobody said anything about it, but obviously I had this win thanks to David Johnson, who gave me 25 fantasy points over San Francisco. Other than Ezekiel Elliott, I think and Melvin Gordon, he's been probably one of the most consistent running backs in fantasy. Even though Melvin Gordon has more points, I think David Johnson has been putting up double digits every single week. Christian Michael, I lost Christian Michael. Seattle dropped him. They barely used him that game, and I started Jay Cutler, and I still got the win. So Tyrell Williams gave me 21 points. David Johnson, 25.6. That was enough to lead my team.
This was a contested one. It was a tightly contested one. So where you lacked And you know what? This one you're going to love. So here's a stat to chew on. You kind of reviewed your team, so I'll talk about Chef Rogers, or whatever he was called, double check something or other. So Michael Thomas had 4 catches for something like 30 yards or so. The point is, he would have had 4 fantasy points, but he fumbled twice.
Oh, I thought that was going to be like a stat correction. Oh, my God.
No, he fumbled twice, and that's why he has a 0. Now, that being said, Chef Joe only lost by, we covered it earlier, 3.3 fantasy points. If he would have had those 4 points, you lose again, and you lose a heartbreaker.
Wow.
You would have lost by less than a point.
Fumbles cost you in real life and in fantasy, like for real. Look at that.
Chew on that one.
Ouch.
Austin Hooper, I think I didn't really watch the Atlanta game, but I'm going to either guess that they didn't use him, or maybe Jacob Tommy finally made his way back onto the field. Only gave you 1.3 fantasy points. That was also kind of a weak link. You didn't get much from your running backs. And Aaron Rodgers, well, even in a loss, Aaron Rodgers was being Aaron Rodgers. 27.5 fantasy points. I did say that Aaron Rodgers was greatly helped by his receivers. Now that his receivers are hurt, hobbled, or just aging, Aaron Rodgers isn't looking the same. You guys, you battered me. You said that I called him garbage. I didn't say he was garbage, but he was greatly helped by his receivers. Now, while I can see a Drew Brees or a Tom Brady, as much flack as he gets, they make their receivers so much better, with the exception of the juggernaut that is Gronk. I don't see that happening with Aaron Rodgers. So he got his points, his team lost, and he overall is not looking great in real football, but fantasy, man, don't knock it. He gets 20 points just about every week. A.J. Green, good A.J. Green game. He scored a touchdown, but after that he went kind of quiet. New York really put the press on him. Giovanni Bernard got some yards, got some catches, but didn't score a touchdown, which probably could have swung that game in his direction. So everything else is pretty much what you could have expected. And the only other shining or kind of a, bright light or silver lining of your team is Kenny Britt, who again scored in the double digits for a team that we said had no real fantasy value. So that's kind of how I broke down. Interesting little stat there as to why it went the way it did. And let's move on to our next matchup. This matchup was the blowout of the week. The Real City Butterflies playing against Beware the Dog.
Yeah, man.
You and I both picked Real City Butterflies to win this week. Tell me why they won. Why did you have them? Why were they so good?
Not only did Real City Butterflies put 163 points, I'm playing them this week, so I was looking over that team, and oh my God, I got a new favorite to win this fantasy. I had Brito all along with Brady's Girly Man, but dude, wait a second. Ezekiel Elliott is getting better every week, and they're using him more every week, both in the pass and the run. And Jay Ajayi, well, he didn't have the great week that he had the other weeks, but he's clearly the guy in the Dolphins, and they're gonna run the ball. So that's an interesting 1-2 punch. He's set at receiver with Demaryius Thomas and Doug Baldwin, who combined gave him almost 40 points. He's set at quarterback. Phillip Rivers gave him 17. He said at flex he has Brandon Cooks, who any given night can give you 20. He can also go low, but he can give you 20 points easily any given night, especially in the dome. And he has Ezekiel Elliott. Oh, my God. Ivan right now, or better said, Real City Butterflies, is the same advantage of Ezekiel Elliott as the Cowboys are in real life. 39.9 fantasy points blasted him over to 163. But truth is, even without Ezekiel Elliott, he would have been over 120. So awesome team, awesome week, man. Hard to beat. Oh, and Tyler Eifert is back, the tight end, 11.1. This guy is, if there was a mini Gronk, it'd be Tyler Eifert, not Travis Kelce. This guy is the closest thing to Gronk after Gronk.
We call him mini Gronk. Kelce, according to Cousin Juan, is baby Gronk.
Oh, baby, whatever. There. Baby, mini. You got the point.
All right, so I like to throw in numbers whenever I can. Every offensive player, either starting or on the bench for the Real City Butterflies, with the exception of Jay Ajayi, who kind of been carrying his team the last few weeks, scored a touchdown, at least one touchdown.
Nice.
That's everyone. Eifert, Cooks, Baldwin had 3. Demarius Thomas, Ezekiel Elliott, Phillip Rivers, obviously, he threw some. Sterling Shepard, Steve Smith, and Kyle Rudolph, all touchdowns. So take that. I don't understand there. How the hell did Real City Butterflies end up with Matthew Stafford? I thought he got traded to a different team.
He made a trade for Matthew Stafford. I think he traded away.
Doug Martin, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well, I don't know about that one, but all right. Beware the dog, man. Not a bad week, dude. 107 points. You had 2 stars in the 20s, and you had Kiko Alonso, who a lot of people will say won the game for Miami against San Diego, in San Diego. But Russell Wilson, welcome back. Incredible performance against the New England Patriots. Russell Wilson threw for 348 yards and 3 touchdowns. All 3 of those were to Doug Baldwin.
And beat Tom Brady.
And beat Tom Brady.
That should be worth fantasy points alone.
Odell Beckham Jr., 10 catches, 97 yards, and a touchdown. 10 catches, a lot of them were kind of short and getting tackled right away. But, take them how you can get them, and 22 points from Odell Beckham is not a bad score. I guess you didn't have much of a choice where you ended up starting Randall Cobb, even though Randall Cobb, if he doesn't score a touchdown, he's not going over double digits. He's not the Randall Cobb that's going to be in for that trick run play or any of that stuff. Capri Bibbs, I think you might have jumped the gun on him. 2.2 fantasy points, a little bit of a letdown. 107 points, could have won you any other week, any other team, but you faced the highest scorer, so not much to see there. Cover that body up and move on to the next one. Speaking of the next one, FIBA, F.U. Ben Affleck against Amari 2600. This was the combined lowest scores of the week. If you add both of their scores, both FIBA and Amari 2600, Ivan still would have beat them this week, the Real City Butterflies.
Yeah, it's sad. It's sad. FIBA comes into this matchup, both running backs. I mean, he was greatly affected by buys. Juwan Harris, the backup running back in San Francisco, and Chris Thompson. Combined, they gave him 3.5 points. That's sad. You got production from Cam Newton, Larry Fitz, and kind of Jordan Matthews with 11 points. And after that team was completely dead. 86 fantasy points is embarrassing. You don't even deserve to win, but a win is a win regardless. This matchup right here was the equivalent to the Jets and Rams last Sunday, which ended 9-6. This is pretty much it. So you won because you weren't worse, not because you did well. Cam Newton seems to be, putting up some numbers, so good for you there. But, man, bye weeks really killed you, bro. I'm sorry. And you didn't get anything from anywhere else. Sucks. And Brandon Marsh is going to take a big hit now with Bryce Petty throwing the football. 3.5 points, I wouldn't expect him to give you those 15 to 20 points as before. Maybe I'm wrong.
As before when? Because since week 6, he hasn't scored double digits any week. Didn't matter whether it was Gino or Fitzpatrick, Bryce Petty. We used to think of Brandon Marshall as quarterback proof. Not so much. I remember coming into the season, he was actually making a bet with Antonio Brown over who gets the most yards. What was it he bet? Like a Ferrari for a Rolls Royce?
Yeah, well, he started out pretty well, but I mean, these Jets quarterbacks they're horrible. Nobody expected Fitzpatrick to bust like that. Geno Smith is always going to be bad. Hopefully Bryce Petty, I don't know, maybe he gets touched by Tom Brady or something this weekend. See what happens.
Rub him on the shoulder or something.
Yeah.
Hey, buck up, big guy. All right, on the other side, man, if you thought that F.U. Ben Affleck was bad, Amari 2600 was no better. Carson Palmer has been looking worse every week. Even though they did win, you would have expected. I mean, last year's Arizona Cardinals would have destroyed San Francisco, especially this San Francisco without Bowman. They would have probably put like 50-plus points on them, and they barely escaped by a field goal, 23-20. Nothing happening there from Carson Palmer. Two interceptions and 1 fumble, only counteracted by 1 touchdown. He did throw for 376 yards, but he threw almost 50 times to get there. So not very efficient from Carson Palmer. And, of course, if you throw that often, you're bound to get some interceptions. Jonathan Seward was a big dud. Another loss for Carolina, man. Carolina is such a letdown. Like, I'm sure people run to make their plays at the bookie, and they expect, this is the week Carolina turns it around, and then you get 17 measly points, even with all of your talent there. I mean, nobody's hurt in Carolina. They're still there. It's just a matter of defense, but they can't even put points up. And we would have thought that getting Kelvin Benjamin back was going to be, a godsend and them automatic points, but they got the kiss of death from Packy, man, and that's about it. Kelvin Benjamin has never been the same since.
I know.
John Brown, you're basically putting out there the third wide receiver in the depth chart for Arizona. You're starting Corey Coleman as if though he were some big deal. I know you were hurt by the fact that you did not have Amari Cooper this week. You had the option to start Joe Flacco over Carson Palmer. I don't think that I would have chosen otherwise, given the fact that they were playing in San Francisco. I mean, they were both favorable matches, but I don't know. You would have had to score so many more points from so many more players. You just didn't have it this week. Robert Kelly looked like the most proficient of your offensive players. He only gave you 10 fantasy points. Nothing to see here. Move on.
Carson Palmer is hot garbage.
Ouch, man! He's a senior citizen. Respect.
Yeah, he's hot garbage senior citizen.
All right. So Loyal Action Boss played against yours truly. Pimpin' ain't breezy this week. Oh, man, I picked against myself this week. I thought that Action Boss had more favorable matchups, even given the fact that he did not have Derek Carr. But it wasn't enough to overcome Pimpin' ain't breezy. What happened over there on the Soloyo side, Packy?
Yeah, Soloyo, unfortunately not having Derek Carr, had to go with Alex Smith coming back from a concussion versus Carolina. Alex Smith got the win, but he just wasn't the reason for it. Melvin Gordon gave him some good points at 15.7, and he got some good points from his linebacker, Luke Kuechly. After that, nobody else gave him double digits. He's also going to be missing Tevin Coleman, who was out, I believe, because of injury. He was also missing that. That would have helped a lot since he had to go with James White at the flex, who his production is going to start going down even more now that Dion Lewis has been cleared to play. So I don't expect James White to take the field as much as he used to. It's pretty sad. Emmanuel Sanders, 7.9 versus New Orleans. I would have expected a lot more from that. I would have expected a lot more from Mike Evans also. I'm very sorry that your team had to suffer because of Jay Cutler's mediocrity. I thought he was going to do a little bit better. He looked fired up last week, and Tampa Bay has a very weak defense. But Jay Cutler lost. And by the way, I know I mentioned Jay Cutler on Mike Evans, but Jameis Winston is not looking that well either. I don't understand why Mike Evans wouldn't be getting more fantasy points on that team. The guy is. There was actually an argument the other day if he was one of the best wide receivers in the league with Julio Jones, and that's a valid argument. He should be right up there with Julio and Antonio Brown. So, very unfortunate week overall. Melvin Gordon can't give you 20 points every week, man. I'm sorry. You would have needed it this week, but it wouldn't have made a difference.
There seems to have been an implication that I won because of the absence of Derek Carr.
No, that was one reason, not the only reason.
No, I'm not saying you said it. I'm saying it was put out there by someone, maybe owner of another team that I was playing against. But Alex Smith gave you 8 points. How many more points did you really expect from Derek Carr? And would it have put you over? I mean, the difference is 28 points. So were you expecting maybe a 37 from Derek Carr?
Well, Derek Carr's top week was 34 fantasy points, and he threw for 500 yards. I do not think he would have repeated that performance.
So you would have lost by a lot. You would have lost by a little. I think this week you still would have lost.
Valid argument.
And it's all due to the production of my team. Antonio Brown finally making Antonio Brown things, 27 fantasy points in a game where they had to throw to keep up with Dallas. Antonio Brown, let me see his stat line so I didn't cue it up, went for 154 yards on 14 catches and a touchdown, totaling 27.7 fantasy points. Drew Brees, try to keep pace with Denver. We thought that maybe because he was playing Denver, he was going to have a tough time. He did throw 2 interceptions, but he counteracted that with 303 yards and 3 touchdowns, giving him 22 fantasy points. Double digits from Jeremy Hill, accented by the touchdown, double digit by Matt Forte, in a, not a touchdown, but yards and catches, and 14 points from Vontaze Burfict. I actually went into Monday Night Football losing, but Vontaze Burfict is an animal. That dude is everywhere.
Yeah, he's good.
I like if you like defense, man, and put to the side that you may think he's a dirty player, Vontaze Burfict is an animal.
He is.
For those of you that weren't paying attention, Vontaze Burfict was, I believe, my first waiver pick, the first time I claimed anyone. I picked him up. I know many people wanted him, and I am not disappointed by the production he's given me. Given the fact that he didn't play the first, I think it was 3 or 4 games, he slowly worked his way into it, but 14 fantasy points, man. This is why I drafted this guy. I don't want to go without mentioning the 28.9 fantasy points that I left on the bench with Ryan Matthews, but who the hell knew that Ryan Matthews was going to be the guy that was going to get the yards, the touches that week? I mean, whatever the hell they're doing in Philadelphia is just hot crap.
Yeah, Doug Peterson in Philadelphia, sorry to interrupt you, he has a little bit of Bill Belichick going on. It was Wendell Smallwood, it was Darren Sproles, it was Ryan Matthews. There's no way for you to know.
Well, if you're keeping score at home, so here's looking at the coach of the team. Put this guy in, give him the ball, and get the hell out of his way. All right, we got to move through a few of these a little bit quicker, Pac. So Victor played against Brady Gurley, man. Possibly a preview of the finals of this league. And this week in particular, yeah, we have to take into account some of the bye weeks and that sort of thing. But it looks like Brady Gurley men came out on top. 138 points to 101, not Victor's best week. Why didn't Victor win this week?
Well, the main reason is Alshon Jeffrey's production. I spoke earlier on Jay Cutler when I was referring to Mike Evans. I got a little bit confused there. It's late, so I'm sorry. But this is exactly what I was referring to. It's unfair that Alshon Jeffrey has to suffer through that Jay Cutler syndrome, and now he's suspended, so he won't be counting on that. Your top producer, as normal, Julio Jones with a great outing, and Dak Prescott, who played a lot better than what his fantasy season was. But besides that, you didn't get much from your running backs again. You went with both New Orleans running backs. Kind of a bold move. I mean, I understand Denver's weak against running backs.
Just because it works last week doesn't mean it's going to work every week.
Yeah, the Saints aren't really a run-first team. That's not really Sean Payton's motto. He might do it one week, but he'll probably go back to passing. That's what he does. So I don't think that's going to work much. But luckily, he does have C.J. Prosise for the upcoming weeks, who clearly is going to have a bigger role now that Christian Michael was released. But, man, the main reason why this guy lost...
LaShawn McCoy was on bye.
Yeah, he had some bye weeks in LaShawn McCoy, T.Y. Hilton, and Dante Moncrief, which are 3 big-time scorers on his team. That's probably the main reason why he lost. And then out of his starters, like I already mentioned, Alshon Jeffrey didn't do much. So tough week, man. And again, he didn't start a defensive player. I don't know why he's only going with 2 defensive players all year, apparently. I don't get that strategy, but fine.
No, what he'll do is he'll wait for Monday night and just pick up any random guy. And like Cousin Juan likes to say, he'll pick up the guy that gets the pick 6 with 70 yards or whatever, and that's how he wins. This team, though, has been good about, winning by the end of Sunday Night Football, so it hasn't mattered that they don't necessarily have that last defensive player. That being said, he was losing by so much that it wouldn't have mattered. I don't think there was a defensive player out there that you could have picked that would have put you even close. On the other side, Tom Brady had a pretty pedestrian game, just 10 points. He didn't score a touchdown. He had an interception.
And a fumble.
And a fumble. Wow, you like to celebrate his unachievements. All of the offense, well, not all of the offense, but all the scores for New England came off the running. Todd Gurley, man, like I think I talked enough about Todd Gurley before, and you mentioned that game ended 9-6 with LA winning. Neither quarterback really able to do anything in the air. Doug Martin, who you just picked up on a trade, 11 fantasy points. Welcome back. It was against Chicago, so I wouldn't get too excited. Willie Snead, who's kind of a roll of the dice, he came through this week, had a touchdown, 19 fantasy points, and Jordy Nelson looking reliable again. It gets really interesting after that. Jordy Nelson, Antonio Gates, and Delaney Walker, all in the high double-digit scores, and you even got a double-digit scorer on your defense. 138 points, really good outing this week, and not much to say there, man. You won this week, and you proved Packy right over me.
Yeah, that's right, man.
All right, the next one, Hide the Blunt versus Mama Millionaire. I personally think that Hide the Blunt is just cruising, whatever. He's determined to just give us his money and just say, screw it, maybe next year. What happened there with Hide the Blunt?
So much for my rival, and now he got the exact same record after a 5-game losing streak. Now you know how it feels, buddy.
Wow.
Now you know how it feels. And you got Matt Ryan, so... You got Matt Ryan, you got LeGarrette Blount, you got DeAndre Hopkins, you got Martellus Bennett, and you still can't win. So your case is a lot more embarrassing than mine. Overall, it wasn't that bad of a week. 116 points is not bad. He would have beat a lot of people in the league. It was an unfortunate matchup. Yeah, man, you started Peyton Barber in Tampa Bay. You deserve to lose, man. Why would you start Peyton Barber from Tampa Bay? You don't have to do everything that they say in fantasy football. Focus, you can use your own brain and decide if a player is working out for you or not. So, too bad, man. You deserve to lose. How about that hate, huh? Say something.
Peyton Barber the week after Doug Martin comes back, not a great look. 18 points for Sam Bradford. Le'Veon Bell looking like the best running back in football. Sharkandrick West, whatever with Sharkandrick West. Spencer Ware was back. I think I said that before this game happened.
Yep.
Calvin Benjamin, what a disappointment. And Stephon Diggs, what a pleasant surprise. See, of all the players that were there, I pretty much expected the same kind of outcome that I'm seeing here. Maybe I would have added a few more points to Mike Wallace, but Stephon Diggs was definitely put you over the edge. Stephon Diggs this week, 13 catches, 164 yards. He didn't catch a touchdown, but it didn't matter. I mean, 13 catches and 164 yards on his own is good for 22 fantasy points. All right, I could expand, but let's not. Let's just move on to the next matchup.
Yep.
EMCC Brawlers versus Darryl. The Troll, his team name last week was EMCC Eres Medio Come Cock.
Yeah, it's worth noticing that in this matchup, I went with EMCC number 2. I'll call Darryl's team like that, mainly because of the name. I mean, he's just trolling everybody, but my logic said I had to go with EMCC Brawlers, Omar's team, and he won. I don't get the pick, obviously, because I didn't pick him, but Des Bryant is clearly back with Dak Prescott, Des and Dak. Des, Dak, and Zeke. I like that. I don't know, it just sounds right. 20.6 fantasy points. And Ryan Tannehill, bold move. He's starting Ryan Tannehill just to piss off Darryl, saying he's going to beat him with Ryan Tannehill. So 18 points isn't bad. That was good. And Devontae Adams, man, has he shown up to the scene for Green Bay? He's probably one of their best wide receivers right now because nobody else is doing anything. So overall, great week out of those 3, and those pretty much were the 3 that carried that team, man. And come to say, Gronk only gave that team 7 points this week. If Gronk would have had a Gronk day, he would have had more.
Wow. All right. Good analysis on that team. I'll just talk about the other one. On the other side, on the head-to-head, sadly, Ryan Tannehill beat Eli Manning in the head-to-head. However, I did call for Omar to nut up and start Tannehill against Eli Manning. I think Packy might have missed last week's episode. And he took my advice. In the head-to-head, he won, and only because Eli Manning decided that with the lead and with the ball, it was just better to throw it 70 yards to the other team. I don't know what the hell was happening there. The Giants wanted to give me a heart attack. Oh, man. 18 fantasy points is still good.
Those nail biters are
150. Dude, man. Come on.
I've had a lot with the
21-20, and I'm up till midnight. The hell with you. Man. All right, well, Devonta Freeman and Lamar Miller were kind of a letdown. You expect double digits from them on most nights. It wasn't the best day, rather, for Atlanta. They've looked better. Only 15 points as a team, 9.6 fantasy for Devonta Freeman. Jamison Crowder and Rashard Matthews, two players that I really don't expect much from. Kind of buried in the depth chart there. They gave you good production. Rashard Matthews in particular has looked good over the past few weeks. Jordan Reed, kind of a letdown. Darren Sproles, even he got in on the fun, even though Ryan Matthews had the bulk load. Double digits for Sproles. Double digits for Marcus Peters. Again, I don't endorse playing cornerbacks as your IDPs. And 115 points, a really good outing. 14 points from your kicker, but it just wasn't enough to beat the original EMCC Brawlers. All right, guys, that was the week that was last week. Let us zoom through the previews for this week because we're kind of short on time.
We got 15 minutes to do it, Jay. Let's do it. Challenge accepted.
All right, so week 11, we're going to start with Victor's team versus Daryl's team. I don't expect whatever the hell their names are this week or right now, honestly, to be the names they stick with. They like to troll each other's names, so I don't know what's going to happen there. I think it's kind of a stalemate. What can we expect from EMCC? Ed has made a comic cock that hasn't changed their name yet.
Well, I expect a big week from Eli versus a sucky Chicago. I expect a very good week from Lamar Miller versus Oakland and Mexico City. And I expect also Jamison Crowder to keep producing those 10, 11 points from Green Bay. I have, on this matchup, I have Connor Bless winning, not because I think he will win, because I honestly think EMCC has a legit chance to win, but because I love the name Connor Bless. I'm a Conor McGregor fan, bro.
At this point, I'm pretty much sold out on what it is that I'm going to be picking for the rest of the way. Dak Prescott against Baltimore. Baltimore's a team you can pass on. Mark Ingram, Tim Hightower. I don't like that you keep doing this, and they're playing on a short week. Put in Jeremy Langford if you want, and CJ Prosise against Philadelphia. That's a matchup you can explore. Julio Jones is going to be on welcome. T.Y. Hilton and you also have a LaShawn McCoy you can start, so you can probably even put him in on flex. I'm not seeing you probably traded him away. Anyway, T.Y. Hilton in for Julio Jones and Zach Ertz, for the love of God. Well, he's been slightly better recently, but against Seattle I wouldn't start him. So that being said, I'm going to go the rest of the week and pick my favorite to win. I'm picking Victor's team, whatever is going to be moving forward.
So you're going with Connor Bless.
The next matchup. Yeah, man. We're kind of rushing, so I don't want to put too much emphasis on it. But whatever, I'm going with Victor. He hasn't let me wrong. He lost one. And I mentioned before, and Daryl he didn't want to accept it, openly, but I did say that his team was trending downward. He's lost 2 in a row. He's currently at the bottom of the division. Even I leapfrog him. So I don't know, man. Not your best stuff going forward. All right, next team we're going to talk about is going to be my team, my matchup, Pimpin' Ain't Breezy versus Picture Me Rowlin'. Two teams that are 5-5, both of them riding a win streak. Pimpin' Ain't Breezy a 4-win streak, and Picture Me Rowlin' has a 2-win win streak. Dago usually has really solid teams. Tell me, Packy, why am I winning this week?
This matchup is going to be decided by 8 p.m. On Sunday, since nobody has even a Sunday night football game here in this entire matchup. So I still, though, got Picture Me Rowlin' as the winner. You've depended a lot on Drew Brees. He's on the road in a short week versus Carolina. I don't trust him, even though Carolina's secondary has looked pretty bad. Ryan Matthews
27th against the pass.
It doesn't matter. I just don't trust Drew Brees on the road versus a technically good front seven. Ryan Matthews versus Seattle, I don't like that matchup either. I don't think he's going to be giving you those 28 points he gave you last week on the bench. I do think your main emphasis of points here is going to be probably Antonio Brown. And maybe Jeremy Hill versus Buffalo, I'm not sure, but I don't like Paul Perkins either. I hate the Giants' running game. I'm stuck with Rashad Jennings because now I lost Kristen Michael till he gets set up in Green Bay, if he does. And I like Terrell Pryor, but overall, man, I think it's a bad week for matchups for you, so I'm going with the other side.
Tyrod Taylor against Cincinnati, who just lost to the Giants, and Cincinnati's playing at home. I'm going to take Cincinnati on that all day. Le'Veon Bell against Cleveland, that should be a field day. Whether they decide to run or pass, that's really totally up to Pittsburgh. But I absolutely love the Pittsburgh offense, however they decide to do it. Thomas Rawls against Philadelphia. All the talk I've been hearing so far has been about C.J. Prosise. I don't know how much usage Thomas Rawls is going to get. Kevin Benjamin has looked increasingly disappointing every week. I don't expect the same production out of Stephon Diggs. Zach Miller has looked horrible. And the Giants are kind of fair or on par. Well, they're slightly below par in terms of guarding the end. Like I said, I've been again for the last couple of weeks. I'm going to pick Pimpin' and Breezing this week because I need to make up a few points in this pick'em.
No way you're going to win 5 in a row. Screw that. No way you're going to win 5 in a row. I refuse it.
Done it before. All right, so next matchup is the Real City Butterflies playing against yourself. Packy and Witten is coming.
Yeah.
That might not be the name by the time we get to the Sunday
I'm keeping
games.
it, man. I'm keeping it because, I mean, Jason Witten deserves to come. I mean, he's a veteran. He's one of my
God.
And, you know, truth is, I used to play tight end, and he is probably one of my favorite tight ends in all of football. He is my personal favorite tight end of all times. His play style, I feel like my play style translates a little bit to his. Obviously, I'm not an NFL tight end, Jason Witten, but I mean, you know, the blocker, fundamentally sound, not very fast running. But that's not the point. The point is I expect Real City Butterflies to win. I said I love this guy's roster coming into the, into the stretch of the fantasy season. I'm struggling here, man. I lost Kristen Michaels, so I got to start Rashad Jennings at running back. Even though it's against Chicago, I have no faith, like I said, against on the Giants' running game. I don't like it. I don't know what's going to happen with Blake Bortles. He can give me 20 points. He can give me 5 points. Who knows? So, and David Johnson up against Minnesota. Minnesota has been weak, but given my luck, Minnesota's probably going to come back to their 5-0 defense and shut down David Johnson. Nobody has this season yet, so it's a matter of time before he does. So I'm losing this week.
Well, Eric Kendricks is back for Minnesota, and that seemed to be a piece they were missing. Blake Bortles, he puts up fantasy numbers even though his team doesn't win. He'll get you double digits. What ended up happening here? Did you end up talking about the other team? Okay, why is Real City Butterflies going to beat you? Okay, well, Matthew Stafford's going up against Jacksonville, an odd defense he can exploit. Ezekiel Elliott is going against Baltimore.
He's always money.
Going up against the Los Angeles Rams. Doug Baldwin against Philadelphia, who you can pass on. Just straight up and down the roster, there are favorable matchups to be had. The only one that you may or may not think about questioning is Steve Smith, given the fact that Dallas has actually gotten better in recent weeks. They're right smack dab in the middle against wide receivers at 15th. Oh, no, actually, there's 32 teams, so they're slightly over the middle at 15th overall against the pass. So, that being said, Real City Butterflies is going to wipe the floor with you, buddy.
My team, if you look at the players on the both starting lineups, my team is like a poor man's Real City Butterfly. It's like the cheap version of Real City Butterflies.
Dude, you're such a front runner. It was all about Gurley and the auto-drafted team.
Yeah.
All right,
I like how it's coming together.
6-4, Amari 2,600.
Oh man, I got a fun stat on this one. And hide the blunt, right? They've lost 5 in a row.
I'm trending in the right direction.
Check this out. So I never root for Vasquez, right? Because he's my rival. But there's no way. Okay. I mean, we got a dinner on the line. There's no way I can pick Amari 2,600. I'll give you one simple stat. Why? He has 1, 2, 3 Cleveland Browns starting on his team. 3 Cleveland Browns. He has Duke Johnson Jr., who's not even the starter. He has Corey Coleman, who's not even the main wide receiver because it's Terrell Pryor. And he has Gary Barnidge, who's a good tight end, but in a very bad offense. So, man, 3 Cleveland Browns. I don't see how you can win with 3 Cleveland Browns, buddy. I'm sorry. I don't think there's – and Carson Palmer sucks. He's hot garbage. Arizona needs to get a quarterback next year, either from the draft or a trade, or I don't even know who's in free agent quarterbacks yet. I have to look into it. But that team's just one average quarterback away from making a Super Bowl run. And they got Carson Palmer, who's hot garbage.
So I know that this is fantasy, right? But let's take real football for a moment. I saw the press conference from Tony Romo, and it looks like he was essentially ceding his position over to Prescott.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine Tony Romo ending up in Arizona, a state that in sports history is traditionally known for rejuvenating players? I mean, Tony Romo, Larry Fitz, you know what I'm saying? This could happen.
It could, but I have a prediction that I think Tony Romo's going to go to the Broncos, actually. I just have that feeling. I don't know.
That also makes sense, but, nerve damage, back injuries, broken bones in your back, and now you're going to play in that cold?
That's exactly what the Broncos do. That's why they had Peyton Manning. Coming back from neck surgery. It's perfect. It's like doing it all over again.
So this is almost an embarrassment of riches. You lose Matt Ryan this week to bye weeks, and now you have Andrew Luck stepping up against Tennessee. Tennessee is vulnerable against the pass, even though they're slightly good against the run. 26 against the pass. LeGarrette Blount against San Francisco. It's a 3-headed monster right now, running backs in New England, but it is San Francisco, so everybody should get a chance to shine. On the flip side of that, you got Carlos Hyde against New England. Michael Crabtree coming back against Houston. You missed Michael Crabtree last week. You have Dante Moncrief, who you traded this week for DeAndre Hopkins. So that's kind of what I was looking for. I was missing that on Victor's team. Dante Moncrief now ended up on Hyde the Blood. I don't know if this trade went unnoticed, but we traded DeAndre Hopkins, who we can all agree, what's his face, 6'8", long man, looking like a vampire and Frankenstein mixed in one. He just ruined that guy. He just freaking ruined DeAndre Hopkins, man. That dude looked incredible last year. It looks like Gronk may miss a week, and even though I see a little Q there next to Martellus Bennett, he should get the most of the burn against San Francisco. All that being said, I'm picking Hyde the Blunt this week.
Yeah, I can't believe I'm going with my rival, but I have to.
If you lose 6 in a row, that's a real embarrassment, man. Beware the Dog versus So Loyal Action Boss. So Loyal has a point to prove. Having last week, they're at 7-3. Also losing last week, Beware the Dog. They're at 4-6. But one win in this where it's kind of log jammed, they're right around 5-5, 4-6, can put you right back into it. So, what do you have to tell me about why or why not Beware the Dog is someone to worry about this week?
I got Beware the Dog winning this match, and I'll give you simple reasons why. Russell Wilson is clearly back to Super Bowl form. Money. Spencer Ware versus Tampa Bay, healthier. Money on the bank. You got Latavius Murray coming back from rest versus Houston. The way he played last week, more money in the bank. Odell Beckham versus Chicago. Chicago's horrible. Oh, my God. It's just beautiful matchups all around. Randall Cobb cannot. Who knows what's going to happen with him. But with what I mentioned, should be more than enough, bro. Beware the Dog got this. He got this. He got this in the bag.
And now we go over to So Loyal Action Boss. Man, I said I wasn't going to pick against him, but he's making it hard for me this week. So Derek Carr comes back, but now you lose Melvin Gordon. That's one of your top producers. You also won't have Emmanuel Sanders, even though he hasn't been great this year. He's been reliable, to get you points. I mean, he's never given you a 0. In his place, you'll probably start Dorial Green-Beckham, who has to go up against the Legion of Boom on the afternoon of Sunday. I don't like that. I don't even know what he's owned. You do have have a Ty Montgomery, though, who has both wide receiver and running back eligibility, so maybe you slot him in there.
No, he's going to have to start that one at running back.
Is leaving you. Or maybe he'll start him at receiver. I don't know, man. You have a hole there. And James White, so we talked about this before. James White, Deion Lewis, and LeGarrette Blount. It's not looking like a lion's share in any direction. And if anyone's going to score a touchdown, I'm putting my money on Blount, even though they did the dumbest crap in the world last week by not giving it to Blount, 2 yards from the end zone. Dude. You know what? The absence of Melvin Gordon and how bad I've seen Terrence Wentz play. Sorry, cousin. I'm going to go with Beware the Dog this week.
Awesome. All right, we got 3 minutes and 2 matchups. 3 minutes, 2 matchups. Let's go.
All right, this should be pretty easy. Brady's Girly Man versus the EMCC Brawlers. I said I was not going to pick the EMCC Brawlers any week, even though he did kind of prove me wrong last week. Scored a whopping 130-plus points, but we have the 7-3 Brady's Girly Men, who won 2 in a row. EMCC Brawlers came back from a tough luck loss and won last week. They're at 4-6. Brady's Girly Men, talk up your ex-team.
All right, man, I got Brady's Girly Men winning this one, and he's not my ex-team. I still got him in there with the favorites. I just added Real City Butterflies into those favorites. I don't care what I'm an analyst, man. I gotta be analytical about this fantasy football season since my team sucks.
Hey,
and it's very simple.
Breezy is 5-5.
Yeah, they suck.
Why
it's simple.
Not?
It sucks because your team sucks.
Should be in the running.
This matchup is simple. Brady's Girly Man should win. Tom Brady's playing San Francisco. Gronk, who plays for EMCC Brawlers, is not going to play this week. And that sums it up. I mean, I don't even have to go any deeper. Tom Brady's probably going to throw for 600 yards and 80 touchdowns tomorrow on Sunday. And none of them are going to be to Gronk. Yeah, you heard me. 80, not 8, 80 touchdowns against San Francisco.
After saying Dez Bryant is clearly back, and
here's
the way that DeMarco Murray has looked all week.
Oh, and by the way, here's a small detail. People forget. I believe Brady is from San Francisco, isn't he? Here you go. Back home. He's going back home.
So what you think? Home cooking?
Yeah, man. He's going back home.
All
He's
right,
going to kill it.
The only clear advantage that I see here, I mean, it's going to be a shootout at quarterback, man. It's Roethlisberger against Cleveland, Brady against San Francisco. They both have favorable matchups. DeMarco Murray, he's been dealing with like a toe issue. If he makes it on the field, should be good, but, who knows with these toe issues. Chris Ivory, I don't know why the hell he's on your starting lineup. Maybe because you don't have any other option. You're still carrying, wait, what the hell? Mariota, Tannehill, and you have Ben Roethlisberger. You're carrying too many teams, bro. Too many quarterbacks. Drop one. Dez Bryant against Baltimore. Baltimore is 23rd against wide receivers. You can actually throw on them. Devontae Adams against Washington. That's a good one. Philly's defense is pretty good, and you're putting Jimmy Graham against them. Allen Robinson against Detroit. I like the matchup, but Detroit is fair against the receivers. With all that being said, I'm going to go with Brady's Girly Men.
Yeah, man.
My rival, but whatever.
Stop copying my picks.
Dude, we're running out of weeks, man. I got to catch up somehow. Then this is not the one that I want to risk it on. Also, I said I wasn't going to pick Omar again, and I'm not. So whatever.
All right, that's valid.
All right, last matchup, Chef Rogers against the FIBA. Chef Rogers in command is going to be, well, they're coming off a loss, and they're starting the same run-of-the-mill crap. Okay, so you're going to rely a lot on that Buffalo matchup. You're also going to rely a lot on that Jacksonville matchup. So you have Allen Hurns and Julius Thomas. Don't like them against Detroit. Then you have A.J. Green against Buffalo. That's a matchup you should be able to exploit against that crap Rob Ryan defense. Isaiah Crowell against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is a defense that you can run on. Aaron Rodgers against Washington. You should get your points. If I'm just doing kind of a quick math here, I see another scenario where Aaron Rodgers gets you 20 points, A.J. Green gets you 20 points, Michael Thomas gets you 11, and everyone else not getting into double digits. With that being said, you probably get 103 points. Packy, what do you think? Can F.U. Ben Affleck get you more than 103 points?
It's simple, man. I got FIBA on this one. I'll tell you why. He has 3 Panthers versus New Orleans. Cam Newton, Greg Olsen and Ted Ginn Jr. I don't like Ted Ginn that much, but Greg Olsen and Cam can be pretty good. Also, on Chef Rogers' side, I just don't like the fact that he has Isaiah Crowell versus Pittsburgh. Yeah, Ezekiel had burned him. I just don't like Isaiah Crowell. And I'm not sold on Allen Hurns or Julius Thomas versus Detroit. Detroit, they've been playing better than what they should. So I think FIBA should win this matchup easily. Well, I'm not going to say easily. It should be a tight matchup, actually. But I got FIBA winning this one, buddy.
Both teams are 5-5. FU Ben Affleck is coming off a win, while Chef Rogers is coming off a loss. I don't like a lot of the matchups. Oh man, this is kind of the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I get the same feeling. That being said, you know what? Let's get creative. I'm going to go with Chef Rogers. Go hard or go home, man. This is one I'm actually willing to risk.
Awesome.
All right, so
with that, we just crossed the 1 hour, 20-minute mark, the 80-minute mark. So we got to wrap it up, Mr. JJ.
Hey, man, I'm good. We talked about a lot of different things, from UFC to basketball to football. I'm good. We didn't even mention that the Cy Youngs came out this week, but we'll leave something to next week. Maybe by then we'll have all of the awards out and we can kind of flip through those. That being said, Packy, take us home.
Yep, that's right. Tomorrow, Thursday Night Football, I'm very excited to see the Saints in new uniform. They're going to look like white Power Rangers. That's actually the coolest Color Rush uniform. So, not much to say besides that. I think we're pretty much it. So, everybody, good luck. Week 11. See you next time.
See you week 12.